Hey, you like cars? We're back, okay? I know things look the same like they did last week, but before we get started, before we even before we begin, you know how we get this started. It's the CarQuicks Podcast. It's episode 106. CarQuicks Podcast. You know how we get down, and let's just talk about it. Yes, the setup is still not set up. What can I say? Okay, life. Okay, things got complicated. Okay, I had an idea. Then I said I wanted to change the idea. So then now I want to change the idea means I can't do the setup I was going to do. And honestly, I'm not feeling it either. Okay, because you're used to seeing like the little accoutrements and things I had on the shelf, and I ain't got it on the shelf right now because I've been too busy coming up with all these grandiose plans while life's been happening. Birthday parties, changing jobs, career, all this stuff is happening. Okay, so it's been busy, hence why this is even a late episode, which is against the schedule. But we're going to continue going because guess what? Regardless of what the background looks like, it's my voice and me talking about the podcast and me talking about the automotive news and giving my opinions, what has brought people here. And that's what we're going to do. We'll get to the backdrop soon enough, okay? I'm not giving a date. I'm not even saying it's going to be the next podcast. I'm just going to say we're soon going to address it and I'm going to change some things around. But before we do any of that, before that happens, well, we are going to talk about some cars. So let's drive right into that because I got something to talk about and we're going to keep this one fairly brief this week. I'm going to talk about Sony and Honda because there's an article I was reading from thedrive.com about Sony and Honda have a car coming out. If you remember from many moons ago on a podcast episode, I was talking about the Sony Afeela, which is spelled Afeela. It looks like this. It's the electric car that they're doing along with Honda. Like it's called the Sony Honda Mobility Group, SHM, and they're building this car basically as a collaboration with Honda's been doing before. They did one with GM with the Prologue and the Ultimum platform that they're using on that one. And so this is kind of part of the course. We already know that Honda is going to do different things in different collaborations with what they can and who they can do it with. So no surprise there. So obviously, electric vehicles, most of the time when people hear about an electric vehicle, they are expecting certain differences when it comes to how you purchase the vehicle, right? See, Tesla many years ago kind of flipped that on top of its head when they said we're going direct to consumer. No dealership BS, straight to the consumer. Everybody loves that platform. However, that's only for Tesla. So if you're buying a Tesla, great. Everybody else from Toyota, Honda, Acura, Nissan, Ford, everybody else has to deal with the dealership network. And the dealership network has done an outstanding job of making people not want to deal with them. Okay. Not wanting to deal with them, not wanting to deal with them. Any way they can to avoid the dealership, that's what they have done in outstanding fashion. So when you see a new car company come out or a new company come out, most of the time, the aim that they always do is try to avoid the dealership network so that the pains of getting a vehicle and dealing with the dealership are not happening. That you can just go directly to the consumer. Rivian, Lucid Air, Tesla, Volkswagen has a Scout SUVs coming out, and they already got a fight on their hands about that. And this kind of falls right in line. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. So in California, the Los Angeles local dealerships, like 161 of them, got together to petition the Superior Court of California to bar the reservations of this vehicle from Sony and Honda called the Afeela because it would damage basically the relationship that the dealerships have built all those years, Honda and Acura specifically. Not that this would be sold as an Acura or a Honda. It's basically sold essentially, it's a collaboration, right? So it says Sony, but it'll be sold by probably a Honda dealership. So they're mad because they're saying if this goes direct to consumer, this tarnishes the relationship building that the dealerships have done and work for. There is a group out there called the California New Car Dealership Association, and there's a president on there. His name is Brian Mass, and he was talking basically this article that came out about what they're doing and said this is a direct attack on the 161 franchise Honda and Acura dealers in California that have been loyal partners in building the brand's reputation and success for decades. Yo, this is back to what I said before. The reason why this becomes funny is because, and I'm not saying every single dealership, there are dealerships that actually care about building relationships, building clients, building clientele, building business. And I know there's somebody out there who's been buying Honda Pilots since they came out from some dealership in LA who got the best gifts, and he knows the GM and the owner, and they give him preferential treatment. And every time some new Honda comes out, he don't got to worry about markup because they got him because he's been buying cars since 1992. But guess what? The mass majority of Honda dealerships, and I'm just saying dealerships in general, I won't even keep it to Honda. Dealerships in general have done everything they can to make buying a car difficult. And I don't mean, I know that, like I said, there's a sprinkling of a few gems out there of dealerships that just no BS. Here's a car. We want you to come back and become part of the family. Keep buying cars from us. Yes, there are a few of those. Few, okay? They're not the overall. They are the outliers in what is normally a difficult situation, right? I'm gonna give you a perfect example. I drive a GR Corolla. Anybody that was first trying to buy a GR Corolla back in 2023 when they first came out knows the foolishness that was happening. I'm talking about top level foolery. 10,000 over, 5,000 over. Not even a GR Corolla. Let's just say you're like, hey, that's a special vehicle. That happens on special vehicles. Okay, we'll give you that. Toyota Siennas, minivans. When I went to go get one, guess what? 5,000 over, 6,000. I didn't pay over, paid the MSRP, but guess the battle I had to do for a minivan, a Toyota minivan. Now just imagine a world where you could go to a dealership and the MSRP price is what it is, regardless of whatever they want. They want to throw on tint and all that. You can say, no, I don't want that. And they're like, you know what? That's good. You don't have to have it. We'll get the car ready for you. But no, you know what we got to deal with? We got to deal with people having to fight to take off some trash Expel tint because they think Expel is the best in the business, and it's not. Some trash ceramic coating because I didn't even see you ceramic coaters. I don't even know what you did. You might have put the little spray ceramic coating. I don't even know how good of a job you did. And when you were done, you ran it through that car wash you have here, which is equally as trash. So what are we doing? So that's what I'm saying. People have gone to buy cars, and instead of it being straight price, straight shoot, hey, I'm in and out, it's been a mountain of BS. So when people see that there's a direct-to-consumer option, they gravitate towards it. And while this gentleman is speaking about the not fan base, but the loyal base that they have built, there is some truth to that. There's also a lot of truth in dealerships marking things up, especially during COVID. I mean, they were running around doing all types of nonsense. Like, I know this for a fact because later in this episode, we're going to talk about my time reviewing some cars for a Honda dealership. And I noticed even on their price points that they have markups on some of their cars. Now, obviously, that's business, right? Business for profit, but dealerships run as a for-profit business. And so when you're trying to buy a car and the manufacturer saying, we know what the suggested manufacturer retail price should be, the MSRP, and it also gives dealerships a profit margin because they're buying it at a lower price point than what we sell it at, then people are already like, listen, money is tight, cars are expensive, economy ain't that great, and here you come trying to throw another $4,000 on top just because it's a popular model, like a new car model wouldn't be popular. Come on now. So I see what's happening. This is not the end of this. So anytime a new car company comes up and they want to do something affiliated with another car manufacturer like Volkswagen and Scout vehicles, they're going through the same thing. The Volkswagen dealerships are like, you're ruining what we have built all this time. And I'm on the other side like, I kind of get what y'all are saying, but I don't lean towards that side more than the consumer side, where I've seen the fight that people have had of trying to get cars, and your dealerships have stood there as if they're the judge and juror. Like, they sit there and they basically act like the car that they have, they're the ones that built, that they put their blood, sweat, and tears into. And they're like, no, you're not getting this. Not for MSRP. I don't care what Volkswagen said. Volkswagen of whatever city you're in, we have decided that we actually want to charge 45,000 instead of 40. See, that's across the board. And enough that there was, remember a couple podcasts ago, I talked about there was an act, or there was a bill that was trying to pass through Congress called like the Car Act, I believe it was. And it was about dealerships having to be transparent about the transaction and the fees that were associated with all the car sales, and openly discuss which each one was and why it was doing it. You know what happened? Got thrown out. Why? The dealership network that was lobbying inside of there said, oh, it's actually going to cause the transaction to take more time, not less time. more time. Let me say, however much that the business, and that's this weird space that you have to be in, is just a fight and like kind of like figure out. Dealerships supply jobs and they supply economy to local areas and cities. But I always stand by the fact that you do better by doing better by the people that need the service and need you to buy cars from them. Treat them well, everything else will come in play. You're charging over for cars, and then when somebody like Honda and Sony get together and they say, "Hey, we're gonna offer a car direct to the consumer," what do you think folks are gonna do? They're gonna gravitate towards that. And when you come trying to fight it, it looks like once again y'all are trying to find a way to make sure you can keep your head and hand on getting the most money, even if you already are making profit. And I know that isn't everything that comes with operating a dealership. Of course, somebody might jump in here that operates one and tells me it costs a lot more, the lights in the building. I get that. But I also get that the best businesses run when they take care of their customers. And that's just kind of business 101. And not that the fila or how they're gonna announce it or pronounce it is that cheap, because outside of that, the car starts at $102,000, which is already absurdity. Okay. I won't get into the feeling because I've talked about it before. I was just mostly talking about the idea that dealerships are getting upset when this type of business model comes forward. If Volkswagen is doing it with their own brand, then that means they also know how often this happens where something that they develop gets thrown into the dealership network and it loses steam or loses the love of it, because people find out that they're fighting with dealerships in order for the price point to be what they need it to be. So it's not like it's a far-fetched idea. It happens often. And Honda and Sony know that too. Not that Sony is a car company yet. They're working on that. But Honda knows that too. So to me, what I see is a car company understanding that there is a time when a new car comes out and the fight that it brings tarnishes how people feel about the car, and they go to a competitor. So if Rivian's on the other side with a sedan or an SUV, and they're like, "You ain't got to worry about all that. Come to us. We got you. Don't worry about somebody dancing in your videos. Come on over to Death Row Records and we'll take care of you." That's essentially what they're saying. We'll see what happens. I know Sony and Honda, they'll figure that part out. I don't know if they're necessarily going to block it. They may block it just in LA if this group of dealerships do it, but I'm sure any other state may be like, all right, whatever, let them go direct to consumer. And also, we're talking about a car that costs $102,000. I mean, how many people are really coming in there? Them Honda and Acura dealerships will be They got the Integra, they got the Pilots, they got the Passports, they got the ZDXs, they got the RDX, they got the upcoming RSX. They'll be fine. Okay, I don't know. They're making it like a bigger deal than it should be. Now, continue about some cars, though. The last R34 GTR came off the assembly line. So, moment of silence for one of the last, which, funny enough, it's almost like it feels like an old idea of a car. But at the time, it felt like it was too new or too technologically advanced compared to an R34 or an R33. But now, considering how often things are hybridized and electrified, the R34 GTR, again, as I've said before on this podcast, when you think we're in a bad state when it comes to performance cars and what you can buy, and people lamenting about the old days, and I keep saying, listen, we're gonna come back here and say, oh, we didn't know we had. Now the R35 is gone. People are like, dang, that car was so good, man. The VR35, the turbo motor, the performance they can do, the drag racing performance it had, the road racing. Now all the accolades come in. That's what happens. When everything ends, all the accolades come flying in. Now, what is the future? Now, actually, the cool thing about the last one they built was that it's midnight purple. I don't know if it's just one that they built midnight purple. There's a few of the last run, but it's in T-spec. I don't know if it's going to a customer, if it's going to like the Nissan, Nismo, or wherever dealership or museum in Japan may be sitting in there. But who knows what the future is? Honestly, that's what I was going to talk about. I don't know what the future is going to be. I've speculated about the R36 and what they want to do next. And honestly, if you know anything about where they're trying to go or where they might go, there's some form of electrification. There is some form of technologically advancement in it, because they've actually been doing that. The Skyline actually always was a push forward for the next level of technology inside of a car and a sports car. Now, there is some solace in taking with the fact that one of the bosses or heads of Nissan is saying they want to make sure that the next Skyline is combustion engine. So that prototype we saw that was pure electric, maybe they do both. I don't know. I don't really see them doing both because that's just too much money. And like I said, Nissan is having a difficult time right now. The last thing on their plate is R34 GTRs or R36 GTRs and what they're doing next. So it's going to be some time. But actually, hold on. Let me take that back for a second because I said that, and then a following week they released a Nismo Armada. So I listen. Maybe there is still room for another six-figure supercar in their lineup, and that's another thing too. The GTR R35 now is inexpensive. It is actually a fairly cheap model. Coming next time, the R36, we're talking 250, 300. It's going to be highly, well out of my price range. I'm not going to be an R36 owner, not from the looks of it, but hey, maybe things change and I will be. But what I do know is that it is showing that when we do get rid of these like kind of nameplates like an R35, it shows you just one, how long that car's been out, like since 2008, 2009, it's 2025. It's been a long time. Now, the good thing is there's a bunch of used models out there. So if you were thinking about getting an R35 and it is a great vehicle, you can get one for relatively cheap. You're not going to fight the price tags of like R33s or 2s or 4s that those cost because that's very much a nostalgic thing. It's finally available in the US. It's 25 years old plus. So those are going to hold a certain level of price. So that's when the R35, you might see a dip in that price. In the same way we used to see a dip in the price now of a car, and then now it costs some amount of money we can't afford. Same thing here. R35 might dip, and that's going to be the time you want to buy it. Now, getting into some other, well, I won't say good news, but it wasn't good news. If you're looking at the video, you can check the hat. I got the Ferrari hat on today because it was race week. F1 returned. And let me tell you something. As a Ferrari fan, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, I mean, let me tell you something. Today, Sunday, when the GP was happening, was horrific. Okay. I'm talking, we did decent on the qualifying because we qualified where we're normally going to qualify. Okay. The car ain't going to do no more. McLaren, Lando, I love how he drives. Listen, McLaren is so far ahead of the pack, it don't even matter no more. Like, ain't nobody trying to check them or chase them. They're out of there. Okay. They got it. I don't know who, because, well, actually, Lando, he broke down this today. Piastri, he gets to win. He's now like 34 points ahead of Lando. It's a lot happening there as far as those two drivers. I don't know who's going to get it. I would like Lando to get it as far as winning the championship this year. But as a Ferrari fan, I mean, we lost. Lewis Hamilton crashes. Next thing you know, Kimi hits into Leclerc and Charles, and he crashed. I mean, come on, dog. First race back, two both the cars out. Like, what's happening? I'm glad I don't bet on this stuff because that's exactly why I don't bet on sports or motorsports, because this type of stuff happens. This type of thing will stress you out. You're trying to bet on something that you can't even predict. All types of foolishness happening. However, we got next weekend. And listen, get it out the way. This is racing. Things happen. People crash. Nobody's above it. However good they are, however many championships they have, things like this can happen all the time. So I'm not making it seem like it's like they're cooked completely. They're still in the second running as far as the points go, as far as the championship team. So they're not doing horrible. Okay, they're doing much better as far as both drivers go than like Red Bull, because Sonoda, it's like, come on now. Max is up there solo dolo, okay, by himself. But what I do want to discuss is something that took place over these weeks, hence why this podcast was late, hence why I haven't fixed the background, hence why I haven't done a lot of things, right? Because I've been busy. And I've been busy reviewing cars. Okay, yes. I know I said a couple weeks ago, I was going to start reaching out locally to dealerships and say, you know what? In order to like work this muscle, in order to become better at a skill, is to keep doing it. In order to put my name, my face out there in front of vehicles to review them and to get in front of press people of these manufacturers is to do the work. Okay, I believe in that. Do the work and it shall come. Right. So I'm not a person that feels like I should be getting everything that some bigger channels do when they review cars. It's going to take me time because it's only been 2 years. And I have to remind myself that because sometimes I'll be like, y'all been doing this for mad long. I'm like, hold on. I ain't been doing nothing for mad long. It's been only 2 years. And from one until now is a massive difference. Okay. Between where I was doing when I first started this podcast, first started doing videos on the GR Corolla to where I am now, massive changes, massive progression. So I always gotta give myself a round of applause for that, so I don't get myself caught up in the fight that we do when you look at social media and you see somebody else or this creator does this or they do this and they do this and they got this many followers. You get yourself caught up in that. I'm like, no, I don't care about none of that. My progression is what I'm doing. It's my race. However, with all that being said, I got to review some cars. And that's what I've been doing. And that took a lot of time, a lot of work. But I still got videos I got to edit. The first ones I did, and if you haven't seen them on my YouTube channel, like and subscribe to them, because I did the Ioniq 9 SE all-wheel drive 2026. You see the video here. And I also did the Hyundai Palisade 2026 Calligraphy, that video right here. And I also drove an Elantra N. I don't have that video yet. I'm still trying. I got to edit that one next. But I also drove that one as well. Amongst the other videos I had done back in spring when I was working with the Texas Auto Writers Association, we did the spring roundup, the auto roundup, and I had drove the Ioniq 5. I haven't driven the 5N, which I know I keep talking about. And the dealership I worked at when I did with the Hyundais I did here, I wanted to kind of do those first to kind of work my way up to being like, yo, got the 5N for your boy? Because I'm going to ask that for that next, and we're going to have a good time. But I wanted to discuss the vehicles because there is a component of me doing the reviews on the cars where I kind of come back to the podcast and give some other afterthoughts. So if you watch a review of the Calligraphy, the Palisade Calligraphy, or the Ioniq 9, and you wanted some other information after, well, here we go. So first and foremost, let me just say this. It is not easy reviewing a car. I know, I don't think I ever said it was easy. I probably have said it takes work and it takes like a muscle you got to work. But if you ever looking at somebody standing in a YouTube video, looking at a car and reviewing it, and you thought to yourself, that's mad easy, I ain't got to do nothing. Wrong. Completely wrong. No, it takes a lot of work because there's two ways I'm trying to go about this. I've said before that I like the method of kind of a story or like narration in a way, like Jeremy Clarkson in Top Gear. And I also like the way people like Doug DeMuro do it with like quirks and features. Let me show you all the stuff in the car. And then there's other people like Miles was, I forgot that kid's name, but it's like Miles was Mile or something like that. Marquez Brownlee's cousin or somebody that also works with him does car videos, and I like his format too. It's like storytelling, it's like narration. And then I also look at ones that people do a lot of videos on just driving the car, like the videos is POV. So it's all these things that I look at and I'm like, I want elements of every single one of these because that's what I like, because that's my style I like. So for me, when I first went to the dealership, I was driving the Ioniq 9 first. And actually, no, I was driving the Palisade first. And that was actually harder because when I first got there, they're like, hey, you can have the car take it however long you need it. Enjoy your time, do your video, do your stuff. We like what you're doing. We like the marketing it's going to bring us. Go and do your thing. So they just tossed me the keys in a plate and said, bring it back in one piece, So that I did like because it gave me a lot of leeway to go and decide, like, how do I get rolling shots? And I'm running solo. It's not like I have a recorder or somebody with me. So I'm thinking of, and the reason why I like that too is I'm making sure that I'm figuring out how to do this stuff solo, because you may not always have somebody with you, or maybe I don't get to a point where I necessarily can hire somebody to sit there and record with me. So being able to do these things on my own is key to being as nimble and agile as I can. So I had to go find a place to do roll-bys and drive-bys of the vehicles. I had to go find a quiet place to record and talk about the interior, and then also had to stage the idea. So I was writing down the script of what I was doing. Then I took that script and threw it in ChatGPT and said, clean this up and consolidate it. I took that again, rewrote it again. I'm doing all of this the day of because I started part of it the night before, but I didn't really like what I wrote out. I then put it inside of Word, wrote it out again. I kind of didn't like what I was trying to talk about. And then a lot of it, I was like, you're going to have to be in front of the car and start kind of feeling what's important to you. So the first couple of hours I'm with the car, I'm just driving and just feeling it out. Experience. I stop, get inside of it, get in the back seat, check this out, check out the trunk. I'm just looking around the car. I'm just getting a feel, drive it again, check things out, open the hood, check around the motor. I'm not recording anything. I'm just experiencing the car, listening to some music, put on a podcast. I'm like literally, and the whole entire time, I look at my head, I'm like, man, I gotta hurry up and get to the recording part. But that's where I understand the how hard it is. And it might be harder for me in these scenarios because I'm consolidating where I'm gonna eventually work my way to is when you get loaned a car for like a week. When I get to that point, this storytelling is going to get serious. Okay. I'm doing this stuff in a 7 hour window, like from first drive to where this can fit in somebody's life. Where does it work for the market? Where does this aimed at? What does it do? What are the features of it? I'm reading the manual. I'm reading the Monroney for the window stick. I'm trying to talk and also not edit. I'm talk and record and show people this is why I like this car. What have I experienced during this time? What do I kind of not like? Where does this fit in? And I'm doing that for the Palisade, and that vehicle is much better than I thought. I didn't think it was a bad SUV, but I didn't expect that level of comfort and luxury to the point I'm driving. I'm like, man, unless you are adamant on luxury brands or you have the means to get true high end on it. Like if you can get a Range Rover Autobiography, then by all means, man. I'm not about to compare those two. That's high level. If you can get a fully loaded like Alpina X7, then hey, man, have fun. I would be there too. But when you're talking about what Hyundai has done, even Genesis brand, I didn't even get to Genesis yet, but I will be reviewing their cars as well too. But when you're talking about what they offer for the package, it's so far ahead and it's so high that I was saying the argument of whether you would actually need to get to a Lexus or a BMW can be put on the table because you would have to make the argument of the extra cost being warranted, meaning you are willing to spend the extra 20,000 and say, yeah, I do understand why it's extra and I do believe in that and I want to get into that. And there are people that do that and they can justify it. But the majority of people are going to look at this and say, where does this fit? And I'm like, this punches well above its weight. If you're in this market, you're going to end up with something and you're going to sit in there and say, man, I don't think I ever need to upgrade to anything else. I think I kind of hit it. Genesis being probably the next progression if you're in Hyundai's, lineup as well there. So that was very interesting to kind of experience. The new redesign though, I'll keep saying it. That looks extremely sharp. That is probably one of the best new looking SUV designs. And yes, it's squared off and boxy, but the way the headlight fixture they did, the way the interior dashboard looks, and I was giving them much praise on that because I've always knocked the screen on the dashboard, even if it's curved, kind of being slapped on the dashboard, and they have not integrated this smoothly into the dashboard. Yes, you can still kind of make out the little rectangle inside of it, but much cleaner. And even with the drivetrain, the power it had like 287 horsepower in the V6, felt good, drove well, comfortable. The audio system was wonderful. Okay, the panoramic sunroof, the back seat, the captain's chair, just the heated and cool seats, like all these little features. And then you get down to the price of like 56,000, which ain't super cheap. I know it's not super cheap. But anyways, when you're talking about all those features and you're stacking them against each other, then you're comparing it to what's the next thing above this, and you're seeing those price points get into the 70s and the 80s, you're like, hold on, we might have to start considering this amongst a lot of other vehicles. And so that review was fun. The Ioniq 9 I was really interested in doing because that's an all-electric vehicle. And just from how quiet it is, the feature set, the utility it has, the power it has, because that has more horsepower than the Palisade. Obviously, that's because the electric vehicle has better torque, is more instant, and it kind of gets moving actually very well as far as how big that vehicle is. But that was another surprise. The third row being comfortable at my size, 6'3", being able to fit into the back comfortably, and then just working through that review process. Because even with that vehicle, because it was an Ioniq 9, I had to think about how am I going to show about charging this. I had to go into the garage, shoot little scenes, cut scenes. My first time doing this. I'm not a videographer. I am a gentleman that likes cars and has a camera to record them. Okay, that's essentially what it is. I'm setting up the tripod places, recording it. I got people staring at me in random parking lots as I'm pulling up, just jumping out with the little camera and the tripod, talking to the camera. They're like, "What is this guy doing?" And that's kind of the fun part of it because you sometimes look like a fool, not in a bad way, but that is what it takes to record things out in public when you have a camera, is that you have to be willing to look kind of funny when people are like, what are you doing over there? Like, why you stopped over there? It's a trunk open and you sitting in it talking. What are you doing? But that to me is, I don't know. That's to me the fun part of trying to figure out the storyline, figure out where you're going to speak about certain things. Now, when I got to the Ioniq 9, because I did that the second day, it was 2 days I was at Hyundai. I was driving the Palisade and the Elantra N on the first day, and then the second day I came back for the Palisade. And each one of those days, I'm talking about from like 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. of me just in cars, talking, figuring out shoots. And as you're talking, you're redoing scenes. I'm talking in long form. I don't like how I sounded there. I said and ah way too many times. I don't know what I'm saying. Stop. I don't like that. So I would go re-record it, say it cleanly, get over some hump of how my brain's thinking ahead of what I want to say. But the Ioniq 9, the interesting part about that video, or at least for me personally, just to tell my story, is that I realized it was working as far as that muscle. Because by the time when I got to that one on the second day, I had a better flow. Like, I knew exactly what to say. I was like, okay, we're going to do the exterior. We're going to do the video of the B-roll. We're going to look at the interior. We're going to do the back. We're going to do the trunk. We're going to do the drive-by. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it all started flowing very well, where I was like, oh, I'm getting real comfortable of how this is going to work out and how this is going to flow. So it made it even better of a transition. And as it was happening and I edited the video, I was like, man, this is going to get even better when I get even a longer time with the car, because then I can really just immerse myself in the story of it, right? Even to the point where I may start writing a blog or something of how my experience was. Not necessarily writing, but I might start using dictation or a dictator phone and just start speaking in real time of what's happening, so that I can maybe like write a story or a blog and add it to my website, carquicks.com, and have like a story part of it on top of the video, on top of me talking about in this podcast. Like I said, just content, more content. But we're not done there. See, after I was done with Hyundai and I went through those videos, both the Ioniq 9 and the Palisade, we're going to get to the Elantra N. I did drive that. Pleasantly surprised, because I'm comparing that to my time as a GR Corolla owner, having driven things like a Civic Type R, having driven other sporty type vehicles. I was surprised, not surprised. I knew that they were offering a lot for the value, especially when it comes to like size, much more room inside than our cars, as far as utility, as far as driving people. And the drive was, I did like it. Like, it had some things I didn't like that much, but that's me coming from how my car drives. But I was able to understand where that fits in. So the Elantra N to me was a surprise of, I knew it was good, but I was like, oh, they really knocked this one out the park. If I was in that, if I didn't want an all-wheel drive like compact hatchback, that really would be on a very short list, because from the interior to the sound to what you get for the price point, I mean, you could argue it is even better, because there are certain things they're giving you at a lower price point because they are making sure that they're making a hit into the market. So the Elantra N1 is coming, and I enjoy driving that car a lot too. I then made my way to the Honda dealership, right? Because as I was doing this, I also have been emailing other dealerships, and I have some more to email, but I realized as I did this process, because the person at, her name is Miranda, very nice woman. She is the director of marketing at the West Houston Hyundai and Genesis building that we have out here. And she was like, hey, you got all the cars available to you. I realized after I had done those 2 days at Hyundai, I was exhausted. I can't do that many cars in one day. Like, I can do it, but when you're 8, 9, 10 hours in of just driving, reviewing, and talking, it's a lot. You do that 2 days in a row, you're like, man, it's like 20 hours of just constant, just there all day in the heat and sweating, cleaning myself off, taking a break, taking water, like all this stuff. It's a lot. So I'm going to keep it down to one car per day so that I can kind of hone in on the style I want to do. And I'm going to try different things. So if you're watching these videos and each one of them starts changing or feels like it's a different format, that's on purpose. I'm testing out ideas and what I want to do and checking settings. And sometimes I edit, I don't like how it looks here. I'm too dark in this section because the sun was over. It's all these things is me working that muscle. So it's going to take some time. I can do the videos perfectly fine when it comes to installing parts on the GR Corolla. I got that locked down because that's a very DIY kind of more vlog style, especially if I'm like at a car event or like a SEMA. So that's easy to do. But the car review stuff does take a different kind of method. And so I went to the Honda dealership. I drove at that. I only wanted to drive two cars that day, even though, like I said, after I did that too, I realized one is the best option. It was the Civic Hybrid Touring, their highest trim one, which I really want to drive. I'm telling you, when y'all get to that review, I said it multiple times in that video. This might be the car. If you're looking for a car from like point A to B, I need to commute. I need to give it to a college student. I need to be my first car. I want to just get something that is efficient, that is good. The Civic Hybrid Touring, Sport Touring, is so much car for the price. I can't even argue other options. Like you, unless you have a real big push on for something else, and there are some other things coming. Like Kia has the K4, that's an amazing value, and they have the K4 hatchback coming out, also very nice. But the hybrid touring, with the amount of gas mileage it gets, I was sitting there like, this can argue if you're trying to get like a very inexpensive electric car, because that thing got 50 miles to the gallon, which is mad high. Like if you get that much, I mean, you can argue, why do you need an electric car? This is sipping on gas. But I drove that, and then right after I drove the Honda Passport, which was another vehicle I want to drive, which is obviously 3 SUVs. And so you start to get into the flow when you're dealing with SUVs. You kind of see the difference in each one and where their feature set is and where their expertise is, where their accolades are. You can kind of see where they excel. Right. And so when I was driving the Passport, I realized that it did a couple things that make a lot of sense when it comes to the fact that it has a very simplified drivetrain, which I think is the plus. 285 horsepower V6 with a 10-speed automatic, and there's no hybrid setup. There's nothing complicated, similar to like what Hyundai did with the Palisade. And I think those type of things are resonating with people. I have Toyotas in my family, and the new 4Runner is very nice. I do like it. But I do understand that the new hybrid platform and maybe some of the quirks and kind of the growing pains they have has turned people off when you're talking about previously they had a V6 that had been rocking for decades. And so when you see these more simplified drivetrains, especially in the Passport Trail Sport, I didn't get to drive that one because they had already sold out of them. But the version I had was in the middle. And I kind of like driving the in the middle of the road ones because it at least shows you this isn't base. It's in the middle where most people are going to reside unless they have the means to go up to the highest trim, which would be like the Trail Sport. But just the features, like honestly, I've been in the new 4Runner. And for me, I lean towards the Passport, which normally everybody like 4Runner because it just has a huge following, massive aftermarket. But after driving that new Passport, it's much more space in the rear. I can, even from my height, driving in my seat, sitting behind me, the utility of it is better from what I can see in my experience with a 4Runner and with this and what they have offered and what they're doing, especially with the drivetrain and the price point. I was like, listen, the 4Runner is very nice, and if you are a fan of 4Runner and Toyota, you can't go wrong. But you would do yourself a disservice if you do not go and try the Passport alongside of that. Like I think you need to have those two side by side to make a true idea of which one you want to go for. So drove the Hondas. I have more coming. My idea is to stay local to where I'm at. Reach out to all the local dealerships. And my pitch is kind of the same. It's like I shout out to dealerships that West Houston, Hyundai, and Genesis. I'm going to also drive their Genesis vehicles as well too. I shout them out of each video, tag them in it, because to me, that's the whole point. It's like you're giving me something to build content on and to build my skill set and get better at something. And I'm just here to help show people, if you need a car from them, hey, they got it and they treated me well, and here's a vehicle for it. And so to do this, doing the same thing with the Honda dealership. There's a woman there, her name is Nia Sims. I reached out to her and she was like, yeah, come down here and do that. So I got to edit those videos. Those are not out yet because I was doing the Hyundai ones, but I'm now going to kind of make a break because I did both the Palisade and the Ioniq 9 back to back. I'm now going to probably going to do the Civic Hybrid first to kind of mix it up. Then I'm going to do the Passport. Then I'm going to jump back to the Elantra N. Then at that time, I have a schedule of some other vehicles I want to go to. Like the local Volkswagen dealership has a bunch of ID buzzes lined up in their parking lot, and I need to drive those because those will look dope. And I love that because, the old VW bus, micro ID buzz, that's why I like those. So it's been going. it's been going very well. Like honestly, like sometimes I sit back and you look at things on the internet or you think of things on social media and you're trying to work out things you want to do and things that you want to achieve and things that you want to get invited to. And sometimes that can kind of skew where you've been, where you were before, and where you've gotten to, like where you've arrived at. And it's been a glorious journey. Like to be here and to be able to reach out and get people to say, yeah, come down and review these cars and then be able to put out the video. And I never get myself caught up in the amount of views anything has because it just takes time. Everything takes time. And as I keep doing it, more and more, it will become a thing. And I'm trying to put all this under the CarQuicks umbrella. I know I'm doing a lot. I'm doing podcasts, Corolla stuff, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second. I got events, like I'm going back to SEMA this year. You will see me there. I can't even wait. Even my wife can't wait too. She's excited about it. It's almost like a vacation for us, even though she's walking around there recording me. But SEMA show's happening again. I can't even wait to be back over there, okay? Because that's going to be an amazing time. I also have another event with the Texas Auto Riders coming up, the Texas Truck Invitational. I've never been to this one. This is when we drive all the trucks, pickup trucks. I'm sure SUVs are going to be there too. But another event where we get to drive all the latest ones in that environment. Having done it in spring, I do understand how I want to record and do things now this time around. And just kind of like you said, you're working a muscle and just further networking. That's all it is. I'm going there networking again. And it being like the second time I'm there and kind of knowing some people, being familiar, I'm gonna network more. I'm guess like I've said, I've realized that if you're not asking, then you'll never know what can become. Like you'll never know what the answer can be. And I kind of battle with that because I've read things even on the Texas Auto Riders website about like certain ethics and what you shouldn't or should not ask for. So it kind of gets into a funny place in my head sometimes. I'm like, is it ethical to ask about, hey, is there a way I can get invited or can I get a press vehicle or what do you need to see? I usually try to paint it as what would you like to see from my end in order to be considered. That's usually how I try to paint that question so that it's not a case of like, yo, I should have been had one. How come y'all ain't send me one? Like, because I don't think like that's not how things work. And I don't feel like I'm a person that has to have something. I want to earn it. And if I earn it, then that's when I'm going to make the discussion of like, hey, what can I do in order to earn and get into get into this place where we can be on the same page. I can get, throw me the joint for a week so I can make a true story. If I'm doing this in a couple hours, just imagine when I have it for like 7 days. It's gonna get serious. But Corolla updates before I get out of here. I do have something that I'm working with friend Chris Hatchibrew. We're gonna do a video on a steering wheel hub system from JQ Works, which is basically like a racing hub that they're gonna have built. That we're gonna put on the car. That we're gonna talk about and install it, and we're gonna see how it runs and tell you all the features and all this. And I eventually will have one of those myself as well. I haven't really gotten much on the vehicle because I need to go and buy something fairly expensive at the SEMA Auto Show. Because when I was at I say SEMA Auto Show, and it's not an auto show, SEMA show. When I was there last year, I was over there by the Quick Jack stand, and they were like, oh, if you buy it here at SEMA, we cut you one of the greatest deals ever. Now, I wasn't prepared to shell out $2,000. That's not what I was there to do at that moment. But I vowed, okay? I told myself, I told my wife, this time next year, when I come back, I'm buying Quick Jacks, okay? That's what's happening. Okay. I also need to buy a new phone because my iPhone 10s Max is completely it's lasted since 2018. So I can't be mad at it. It just can't focus on pictures anymore. And so I need to get another phone. I might get a 17. I like the idea of a 17 Air because it's light and thin. But I also am smart and realize that whenever the new phone comes out, guess what drops in price? Them old 16s, them old 15s. And the glorious part about having a phone for as long as I have, whatever one I get is gonna be good. So I might say the new 17, but honestly, I'm most likely just gonna go and grab a 16 Pro or something and save myself the money because I don't need to have the latest phone because even I'm a tech person. I love technology, I love new tech stuff, and I work in tech. But funny enough, because you work in it all the time, we end up knowing how far you need to go and what the differences are and all this stuff. So we're gonna get to that. But that's the reason why there hasn't been many new parts on the GR Corolla, even though I do have the shifter still coming from the gentleman Dark Matter. They're working on that. He's putting that together. No rush on him. He's a business owner running it himself practically solo. So you got to give people their time and grace. And like I said, if it's taking me weeks to put a shelf together, I can't imagine running to somebody running a business. Like, it took me this long to figure this out. I can't even, that's not even the same. He would take even longer. So we have that coming for JQ Works. We have the events coming up. I will be at the Truck Invitational, and there is more things coming. There's more car reviews coming. So that section of it, and there may be people that don't like the car reviews. You may not want to see it, but guess what? Don't tune in for that. Tune in for the podcast. Tune in for the GR Corolla content. Tune in for whatever I do that you enjoy. But until then, as I say, do as you wish and do as you may. This is Cameron Biggs, your host. This is another episode of the CarQuicks Podcast. We will get this set up together at some point in time, okay? So give me some grace. Until then, I'm going to see y'all around on the next one. Peace.